Alrighty. High five. Boom.
Dylan! You son of a bitch.
How's it going, guys? Welcome to this episode of Pete vs. Plants. I'm Pete, this is Peaches. Ah, she's vicious. Ow! And these are the plants. So today, we're going to be chopping up a whole bunch of my Monstera adansonii Laniata, at least what we call Laniata here in Australia. I've got some Albo versions of that. I've got some mint versions of that. I have the standard Adansonii Adansonii Variegated 2 Albo, and I also have, actually no, this one is the monkey face, and this one, monkey face? Monkey mask, Jesus Christ. And this one is the Variegated Adansonii. So yeah, this is going to be fun. These are all mother plants that I originally bought, grew out. I have propagated some of them and chucked them into pon, as you can see. And I don't know, guys, what do you reckon? Do you think that it's been loving it? Check out those roots, guys. This has only been in here for about, I don't know, 2 months, but it has gone bananas. And it is the same deal with this mint one. Look at this. Whew. Craziness. It has gone nuts too. And I'm not sure if you remember from that video, but I got 2 different mint ones and put them both into pon, and they are both doing really well. So yeah, another thing I thought I would show you, I wonder if you can see, the cool thing about these clear pots is that the black around the roots there, I believe, is the mycorrhizal fungus, the beneficial fungus that works mutualistically with the plant and exchanges micronutrients and other things for carbohydrates from the plant, which it can generate through photosynthesis, right? So there's this really cool partnership that goes on between the two, and it allows the plant to obviously be a little healthier because it gets access to these nutrients that it otherwise wouldn't have access to, at least as readily. So I inoculate all these things with mycorrhizal fungus, and you'll see it all over the shop as the black stuff on the inside of these clear pots. That's how you know that it is doing a good job, and the green stuff is algae, which I find to not really be a problem. It's usually just around the outside wherever there's sunlight, whereas the mycorrhizal fungus will be all throughout the soil. So yeah, the reason I've gotten all these plants out is because we have another aeroponics unit. Guys, this one is 48 spaces. I think the next biggest one is like 96 and then maybe 144. Assume it's that. It must be like 12 divisions of 12 or whatever. But yeah, I got a bigger one a while back and just and hadn't used it since. I got to find some space, and so I thought, you know what, today I'm just going to force myself to do it. So we're going to take a shitload of cuttings. That is a measurement in Australian English, a shitload. It tends to be between not very many and an infinite number, right? A shitload. And yeah, I guess we'll just get chopping and then we'll see where we end up. I have to try and remember that we have 48 spaces. But yeah, as I've mentioned in previous videos, I've got a whole playlist up here that I'll link for the aeroponic stuff. It is by far and away the quickest way to propagate I was about to say anything, but I think aeroids, right? A lot of plants, aeroids in particular. What did you drop? Did you drop your fish? There you go. I don't know if you... Bloody hell, Peaches. Now she's just lost it. She's got food in her. She's got too much energy. I don't know if you can do things like cacti. I was wondering that the other day. I'm like, can you propagate cacti in aeroponics, or is the water just going to cause the cactus to explode because it's going to be like, oh, too much? So yeah, anyway, I'll stop rabbiting on. Let's disinfect this. So I've got my rubbing alcohol here and my razor blade. And we'll just get chopping, guys. We'll just get choppity chopping. This thing has just gone off like a frog in a sock, right? Look at that. This Adansonii Adansonii Albo. Jesus Christ, it's got like 3 vines on it. What else is there worth showing you while this is drying off? One of the Laniatas, the Albos, has ghosted, so that's another reason for chopping this one. I'm gonna have to chop it back because, yeah, although those most recent leaves are beautiful, they are useless as they are 100% white. But yeah, stunning nonetheless. It'll be interesting if I did actually try and propagate that. Is it just going to keep pushing out white leaves, or is it just going to go once it's no longer attached to the rest of the plant with chlorophyll? Who knows? All right, so lid off this bad boy down here. Oop, I almost need another table, I'll tell you what. I might chuck it, let's see if I can move things around without pushing anything off the table. Might chuck it here in front of me. Stuff all over the place. Just did a previous unboxing video and that stuff's still on the table. All right, so I'm gonna sit this here like so. You probably can't see it, so sorry about that. And I just have to try and keep in my mind 48. All right, so I think for something like, and maybe I need to give you guys a good look at these things before I start chopping, right? Move things around to give you a good view. With this mother plant, I'm thinking I want to just chop it all the way back and give it, probably, it's got 2 vines that are growing, so I'll probably make sure there's at least 2 nodes on each vine coming forward so that it has plenty of space to grow out from. So that's one there, and 1, 2, I'll do this one here. All right, there we go. So we have these 2 here. And I wonder if you remember my sneaky little trick about fitting even more cuttings into a clone station like this. The way that we do it is by taking multi-node cuttings, right? So if I had enough mother plants, I would probably just chuck something like this in there potentially, ripping a leaf off and making sure that there's at least one of these nodes below so that it's getting loads of nutrients and humidity and will push out roots. But I also found that because there's a humidity dome on top, right, a clear dome, that any nodes above this top seal thing here will also activate and send out roots because of the humidity is just off the charts. So a way of making the most of that is actually chopping these things into 2 node cuttings at least. I'll show you. So we'll do those 2, for example, like so. And when you chuck them into the system, you make sure that the bottom node is below and the top node is obviously, above. And what you can do is usually keep the leaf on if the petiole is long enough and have it going like so up through the hole in the middle here so that it will still be able to photosynthesize and send energy down into the whole plant. So yeah, a 3-leaf cutting like this is going to go off like a frog in a sock. It's going to go wild because it is a top cutting too. So this is just going to keep growing. But that is the basic idea. And then once this is rooted, which will probably take about a month, maybe a month and a half to get some decent roots, you could probably cut this up, depending on how much it's grown here at the top and whether or not these nodes have activated. We may be able to get 3 or even 4 cuttings out of this once it's done that have decent roots on them that you could pot up, or if the roots aren't advanced enough, you just chuck it back into the system and leave it there for another few weeks, a month, whatever you need until you've got roots that you're happy with. So there you go, there's number 1. This is a Monstera Laniata Albo. And I don't know if it is. I've had a few of you guys message me saying this isn't a true Laniata because I think from what I remember you guys were saying that it won't, Laniatas, the true ones, won't have these sheaths along the petioles like this. The trouble is that because so many people sell these and refer to these as Laniata in Australia, you're forced to keep using the incorrect name because people know what you're talking about when you use it, right? So if I actually did find out what the actual name for this was and start using it, people would be confused here in Australia because so many people use the incorrect one. So anyway, that's what I've heard. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, it's just an interesting aspect to plant culture here. I'm probably not going to do any kind of covering up or sealing of the cut internodal spacing here in these because they're going to go into a sort of wet system where they're going to get moisture straight away. I don't know if there's any point to it. And these guys are going to be sitting here for probably half an hour before I turn it on and get it going. So they will probably callus over a little bit, but still be able to get moisture in later on. So yeah, I'm not going to be using any activated charcoal today. All right, what do we got here? So because these 2 are really close together, I'm wondering, do I try? I think I might. I'll try doing this one with these 2 nodes that are really close together because that means that I can then get another cutting here for this one and then this top one as well so that I get a whole bunch out of the one plant. So again, just making sure that there's a node below and there will be a node here. Well, that is a node, but it will develop aerial roots that will come up above as well. The leaves are above this point And the good thing is, because this is a growing point, but, or the tip cutting, right? Usually the most upper node is the one that's going to activate. So if you have two like this, and you have to be sort of gentle when they do this, otherwise the leaf may snap off when you chuck it in here like so. But it should be the top node that activates and just sends out the growth. The only issue I've noticed is that if you have, say, a cutting that is just, say, this bottom part, and the node here is below the surface, the roots will come out, but you have to keep an eye on it because the shoot can come out sometimes and it can have trouble getting up. So often you have to check it, and as that shoot's coming out, you want to direct it through the little sort of Pac-Man mouth part of this rubber seal at the top here so that it can get decent growth. And if it stays under here in the darkness, it's actually just going to be white the entire time and take ages to get chlorophyll. It has to get a certain amount of light to sort of stimulate that. So yeah, it just takes time, but that's something I keep an eye on usually with these cuttings too. If there's only a single node and the node is below the little rubber Pac-Man here, I try and just keep checking on it until it grows, and then I will try and make sure that that growth point is shooting through the top. So this one's a little more difficult because there are two nodes and they're very, very close together. So what I'm going to do is kind of make sure that there's one at least below there a little bit, and the other one's almost at the top here, but because there's this gap, it should be able to kind of shoot its growth upwards, and I can almost see, I think that node has activated there. So that should be okay, but we'll see how it goes. Again, just a learning experience, but yeah, and I should mention the reason that I'm doing this with these guys is because I've run out of a significant amount of stuff that's coming up in the next few months to put up on eBay. So I'm wanting to hit the ground running and get some stuff coming through so that I can sell plants that are hopefully probably about half the size of this, right? When it's ready to go. Maybe about this size, right? Okay, so the next one is the Albo. So this is actually the mother plant, the original one that I got here. And I chopped it back, and that was when I put these cuttings, which I had put through the other aeroponics system that's just half the size of this one. And you can see that was only a few months ago and already has all this extra growth. And I think a big part of it is just the pond. It just went bananas in the pond. All right, so we've got a whole bunch of growth here. I'm just trying to work out how far down I can cut it on the mother plant. And I should count, I guess, from the top. So if that's 1, 2, and 3. So I will cut right here. Just gently seesaw through. There we go. Whoop. Boom. Okay, one cutting off. And then I'm going to... It's interesting. I'm not sure what to do with this one. I may keep this section as a cutting because there is a bit of green here, but when the node activates, I don't know whether or not it's going to activate on the part that has green. So 1, 2, 3, we'll do 4 all the way down. There you go. Boom. And I guess I will leave the mother plant like that. Cute little dude. And it should be probably another 2 or 3 months and it'll be back to having this amount of growth on it. So yeah, all right. Now this is interesting. I do have a bit of green here going up to these two leaves here. So I'm kind of not sure what to do. What I could do, yeah, difficult one. I could take a larger cutting to make sure that it has some leaves. Well, I've just destroyed that actually because I've cut through this one. But I could have it as a cutting like this where it does have at least one here with photosynthetic, power potential to hopefully grow because, yeah, it does have green going up the stem here, which means that when the node activates, it has the potential possibly to shoot out growth that has green on it again. So, yeah, not sure. Or do I just chance it and just do that? I think we might just do that and see how it goes. I'll put it in as well. Hopefully this is able to still take up nutrients. And, what I do need to do, actually, is kill the growth tip. Because it's not going to activate the node if it is a growing point, right? If it's a growth tip, that's not going to activate the node. So I have had to take a single node cutting here. The other cheeky thing I can do is actually double these up like so and put them into a single Pac-Man plastic little thingamabob here as well. So there are plenty of little tips and tricks you can, make use of. The more you sort of practice using these things to get the most out of it. So I'm putting 2 cuttings into this one. One of them is the white one, and one of them is a 2-node cutting. And they're just going to sit like so. I have a feeling the white one here is just going to rot. And look at this, we do have the tiniest, tiny flecking of green variegation. Maybe it'll be enough to hold on, but I don't think so. But anyway, it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. Maybe it'll shoot out some green growth, who knows. But I think this one is a goner. I don't think there's any point in keeping that. I could be an asshole and just chuck this up on eBay and slap $100 on it, like I do see people doing. Don't ever buy shit like that, guys. If you ever see someone selling this sort of a piece of shit cutting that is just 100% white and it's white at the node, do not buy it. Give it to your cat. Peaches, here, have at it. Actually, that's poisonous. I'm gonna throw it in the bin, guys. Sorry. I'm a bad cat parent. All right, in the bin you go. Bugger off. All right, Peaches is looking around like, what did I miss? What did I miss? What was it? Where is it? Where is it? All right, so another cutting here. Just got to be gentle not to snap off any of these leaves, although it probably wouldn't matter too much, actually. You know what? I am just going to break this leaf off because it's so white. It's probably just going to be a pain in the butt and not actually add to anything, right? It's not going to help the cutting at all. It's just going to drain it of energy. So there's the next one. Boom. Push you down. Another one here. God, these are so beautiful, guys. Like, I really want to get the chance to grow these up a moss pole and get them large, because I'm sure that a large version of this that is sizing up through ontogeny, right, where the leaves are getting larger and larger and larger, would just be absolutely stunning. But I have to sell some of these puppies so that I can pay for the initial investment and hopefully get them into the hands of you guys out there who want them. I definitely think this would be a beautiful cascading basket kind of plant, if you can get it to do that. Like these leaves, it just looks like a sort of pothos, but it's a Monstera adansonii, it's crazy. All right, same thing here with this one. Same thing with the whole thing. I think I'm just gonna go through all of them because it's gonna start being pretty repetitive, guys, and we will meet up at the end. What do you reckon? Let's get into the mint ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do I want to go that far down? Maybe we'll just do this here. Okay, so I think we are done at least with all of those plants. Here's what you can see. Here's what it's looking like. And yeah, hopefully we've got, it looks like we've got probably about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've got about 36 different pots in here that have cuttings in them. Some of them are double node, some of them are single node. So there should be probably about 60 or so potential plants in here that will be ready for potting up in the next probably 1.5 to 2 months. I guess we'll see how we go. I can have a look in the future and do a video and tell you whether or not I guessed that right. We may lose about 10% of them, so hopefully we end up with 54 plants that we're able to sell. If we can sell each of those for between 50 and 100 bucks, that's $2,500 to $5,000, give or take, maybe a bit more, obviously. But yeah, so I thought that might help showing you how to do this, guys. It doesn't take up much space, right? So this is about, I don't know, 1.5 feet by a foot squared. It's probably about like, yay big by about yay wide. You just need to chuck it under a grow light, make sure it's getting a lot of light. Keep an eye on it. Sometimes things do rot because moisture. But yeah, I guess before we finish up, maybe I do try and find something that we can put in the spots down the side here because we have a little bit of wasted space. But what you probably have noticed is that I've tried to keep all the cuttings facing a certain direction with their leaves so that they're not overlapping too much, or at least as little as possible. So like here on this side, you'll see that there's 2 rows here that don't have anything, but these adansonii leaves are sort of leaning to the side here. So it is kind of a trade-off too of how much do you put in here and how much is it going to sort of block out other cuttings light-wise. So another thing that I could do is potentially Monstera sort of carnivore El Salvador, the really large one, because I have one of those in pond too that has been going off like a frog in a sock. It's been going bonkers, and yeah, I might do that one. I'll go get it. You wait here. Keep the plants safe, Peach. Oh guys, I think this is gonna blow your mind as well. So I potted this one up. It was the same story. We chucked some of these through the Aeroponics system, and I potted it up probably about 2 months ago, maybe a little longer, but you can just see it is going nuts in the pond. Those roots are so healthy, absolutely loves it. And it's just shooting out this vine, right? That's just way too long. So that was part of the reason. That was part of the impetus for wanting to chop this guy up. And there's probably about 5 cuttings in here too. So this was, again, the idea being that it was a mother plant. This is the El Salvador Pseudobacana form, which you can see even when the leaves are immature, they're still pretty large and large and in charge. And they have this beautiful grey on them. This is the standard, oh sorry Peach, standard Pseudobacana here trailing down. I wonder if I can actually grab the end of it and bring it closer. It's about 4 meters long, guys, crazy. Maybe not 4 meters, maybe more like 3, but it's hit the ground and I've got it up on top of a bookshelf and it's growing along the ground here. But yeah, so they're the main differences. So we've got I've got a few extra ones under here, 1, 2, and then 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So we're gonna have plenty of space. We may even have some left over, but I'm just gonna do some chopping, and I might do the same thing again with double nodes. So I'm just gonna really try and squeeze as much out of this run as possible. See, the trouble is too, you can't necessarily do double nodes when the internodal spacing is like that. It's just ridiculous. It's way too long. And I think the reason the internodal spacing on some of these is so long is because this one was growing down beside the shelving unit and wasn't getting as much light because it was growing down the side. So that's probably why they're so long. Anyway, I'm gonna pot up, chuck these guys in these little plastic Pac-Man things, and then chuck them throughout here to just really make sure that we're getting use of all the potential real estate that is available. Look at the internodal spacing on that. The interesting thing that I have noticed too is that roots do start coming out of the internodal spaces. I kept thinking, is this shooting out a runner? But there's not actually a node there. There's no bump or anything. It's just that roots come out. So yeah, it's an interesting one. You can see 2 more on that side. They're not nodes. There's nothing there, but there's roots coming out. So that's cool too. If I leave these on and I do put that below, where did I put the razor blade? Below the, what am I thinking? Below the surface, hopefully they shoot out roots too, and you can see how healthy these top roots are. They're gonna go nuts. So next one. So what I'm gonna do, as I showed you in the previous section of this video, is chuck the whole thing in like so. See if I can make sure that it's gonna stay in there without snapping the leaf off. So like that, and I've got this root at the top, and then these ones down the bottom, I wonder if they're gonna take off. It's gonna be interesting to see how that goes. Nice little experiment there for you guys. Although, look at the length of that. I don't know if it's gonna be able to sit in here, because it's probably, yeah, it's touching the table. Okay, I guess same thing here. I can see a little root coming out there, so I'm gonna take a little bit of the internodal space off, and off the top, and I'll try and leave it on just so that it hopefully hits the ground running and shoots out some extra roots. You can always have an extra root or two, right guys? Aussies are going to be laughing at that one, guys. Any of you Americans or Canadians, or non-Australians rather, you don't have to be American or Canadian to not understand it, but root in Australia is to have sex. We have a lot of slang for sex, so you can have a root, or you can root someone. You can use it as a noun. I had a really good root on the weekend. Or you can use it as a verb. Oh man, she... fuck, I'm a chauvinist. I love to root, right? There you go, there's a verb. But we can also use things like shag, same thing. Oh man, I had a great shag on the weekend. Oh man, I love to shag. I sound like such a pig, but it always makes me funny. It makes me funny. It always makes me laugh when I hear non-Australians using the word root all the time. Like, oh man, I can't wait for this plant to root. I really want to root this plant. And you're just like, why would you want to have sex with your plant, you freak? All the other Australians are going to be laughing, but the non-Australians are going to be like, what the fuck did I subscribe to this channel for? The hell is this going on? No more mushies before the videos, Pete. Oh man, we're going to have so much space left over, guys. Just have to make sure that these leaves aren't going to get stuck underneath the side of the humidity dome when I chuck that on. Same thing here. Oh, that's actually the bottom. All right. Bugger it. Take the top off. I might just shove this entire thing below. There we go. It should be able to fit. I've kind of been doing a crisscrossing thing like this, guys, with the internodal point up here and the roots below to sort of hold it in place, because if you do just use the petiole, it can end up like this, which isn't necessarily good if that growth point activates and comes out. So what I like to try and do is have it kind of pinched in the middle here, and usually the growth point finds its way above. It'll just follow the light, but yeah, again, we'll see how it goes, I guess. Now, I've still got loads of space, and I still have a few growth points here that I might take off. I might just quickly disinfect this again. It's been a little bit. So, same dealio. Might just take this part off and turn that into two. Maybe just do that. You guys will have to let me know if you are after any of the plants that you see propagating currently and you are in Australia, because I am more than happy to hook you guys up before I chuck these up on eBay when and if they are ready. And it's been really cool. Again, I said it in the last video, but thank you guys for the support. There's been a whole bunch of you guys, pretty much everyone who bought recently off eBay and auctioned, won some of the auctions. I got messages from people being like, oh, I've been following you for a while now and I'm really happy to win your plant and everything like that. And I'm just like, oh wow, I wasn't expecting a lot of people who were following me to necessarily find this stuff on eBay and bid on it. So yeah, again, I feel really honored, guys. Thank you. All right, last one. It's maybe not last one. Got a few of them here. It's going to be interesting to see how quickly these mother plants bounce back too, guys. I might have to do an update for you on that as well, because I'm kind of curious. Usually, yeah, when you cut things back, they take a pause, but they kind of come back bushier, right? So sometimes you'll have multiple nodes that activate and the plant will just kind of go off. Like a you-know-what. All right, maybe I'll do one more. There's another growth point here that I can take off. What I'm predicting for these guys is that they are not going to stop, right? They're going to keep pushing out heaps and heaps and heaps of growth and probably hit the top of the humidity dome rapidly. It's going to be interesting to watch. That's what's happened in the past, and it's what I expect will happen this time as well. And all right, lastly, okay, so we've still got a few spots left. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 spots left. So I really might get greedy and try and find another plant that I can take 4 cuttings from that is going to fit in here relatively well. But yeah, it's looking good so far. How epic is that? All right, back in a tick. Back into the jungle, guys. I've been meaning to chop this one up as well. This is a variegated epipremnum, and the interesting thing is the growth hasn't necessarily gotten bigger. It's been trailing, but it's fenestrated right from the start. I think I got it when it was about this big. But look at that. It's sending off these fenestrations on these most recent leaves, and they're just beautiful. But it's getting a bit long, so that was part of the impetus again for chopping it up. So what have we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I guess we'll just chop here. One of the things that I absolutely love about Epipremnum as a genus is when the different species get these really kind of rough, crinkly kind of stems. I'm not sure if you guys can see that, but it just really wets my whistle. That texture. It's just so nice. So yeah, love it. All right. So what are we going to do here? We have a double at the bottom. Whoop, what was that? Another, I'll do a single here. Seeing as this one sent out a runner for a node. You'll see here, it's sent out. I don't think this was a leaf, unless the tip of the leaf just died. I think this was just a sheath. I'm actually going to take it off. Like it was just sending out a runner node looking for light. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and then 4. So I think that's perfect. I think we had 4 spaces, didn't we? So here you go. Look at that leaf. Isn't that stunning? Like, oh my God, so nice. Lush. So now I'm going to face these back into the jungle, and I have to kind of like loop the stem underneath into the bowels of the aeroponics system. Ooh, it's hard to, sometimes you have to try and remember, that isn't up, that is up. I don't know how much that would matter whilst in the aeroponics system, unless you want to make sure that that growth point there comes up and above. But because the vine has been growing along horizontally, the leaves are facing this way as opposed to upwards. So how am I going to do this? Maybe I do just put this one upside down, or I just chuck the node all the way below. I guess I'll just do that and I'll have to check on it because I don't want to, if I bend this too much and try and get the leaf around the other way, it may just snap off. And it's not necessarily the end of the world if that happens, guys. You can just put a leafless node into the aeroponics system and it should root. There should really not be any issues at all. But yeah, better safe than sorry. Okay, same thing here. So this is a doubler. I'm hoping that bottom one roots up nicely and then I will separate it. These guys have such rigid stems. Epipremnum, man. Like you just feel them and they just feel solid. And I think part of it is probably that texture. I wonder how much that texture along the outside, the epidermis of the stem actually gives it rigidity. You know, like corrugated cardboard. I was about to say iron. I guess it would be the same thing. So this is the same sort of deal. Again, I don't want to break this leaf off, but I can't put it below. I don't want to put the leaf will just rot off. So what I might need to do, again, so I'm Pac-Manning on, nibble, nibble, nibble. And then I'm going to go up a little higher. Actually, I might do that. There we go. So I'm just trying to make sure that the leaf and the node are inside of it, and I can put this one up above like so. And I'm having to use a bit of pinching force here to make sure that it's not coming out. And once I wedge it into its little socket here, its little space, it should hold it in place relatively well. All right, I think we're good. Now I'm just going to try and arrange these leaves a little more nicely so that they're not going over the edge because they'll get pinched by the humidity dome. And I also want them to be able to photosynthesize pretty well. And this is another reason you want to use quite a bit of light. I think it's because, you know, if there's lots of overlap, more light is probably going to be better, right? The plants are going to receive more and be able to generate more energy for themselves. Okay, so this is what it looks like when we chuck the humidity dome on. Now, I'm just doing this carefully because, again, I don't want to pinch any of the leaves. You kind of have to work out where, here we go, we've got some that are overlapping, come back in, where everything is, and then kind of like loop it into the dome like so. Fold things underneath. It's probably not the end of the world if you did pinch them. I just don't want to damage any of the leaves because I kind of just a bit anal that way. Right. All right, I think we've done a good job. So the humidity dome stays on top here. I usually have it open slightly, although, you know, you just have to play with what works for you. I'll see if I can give you a look underneath the skirt here. That's what it looks like underneath. And hopefully when I give you a look in about a month or two, maybe we'll check on it in a couple of weeks, you will see the beginning of roots just coming down, and they grow fast. They grow fast, guys. And here you are for reference, guys. I have just put it down here under a 20-watt light and yeah, plugged it in and away she goes. I'll just check on it in a month or two. That's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed this episode, guys. I am Pete. This is Pete versus Plants. This is Peaches. She's waking up, and I'll see you in the next video. Go check it out. Tooroo. Say bye, Peaches. You're a tolerant cat.